Rekotzi, and this is a story of my life in Egypt. I was born Mireille Menashe on January 1st, 1939. This was during the reign of King Farouk. The Egyptian population was 90% Muslim, 9% Copt, which is Christian, and the remaining 1% was either Jewish or something else. I am Jewish. Although there was a Jewish minority, there wasn't too much anti-Semitism, and there was a flourishing Jewish population. My family consisted of me, my father, my mother, and my 7 siblings. My father is Abraham. My father worked in Libya. He was the private physician for the royal family of Libya under King Idris. My siblings and I got to visit him occasionally. My father's prominent job allowed us to live an extravagant lifestyle. When I was young, I changed my name from Mireille to Mary. The name Mary made it seem like I was Copt and allowed me to go to school and compete in sports without being faced with resistance because I was Jewish. Unlike most Jews in Egypt, my siblings and I attended an English school. I loved school because my school was like a little oasis in Egypt. When I was at school, I felt like I was actually in England because my teachers were English, most of the students were English, and the school offered English sports. When I was 9, the Arab nations attacked Israel the day Israel was announced independent, causing a year-long war to break out. I remember hiding for shelter and hearing the piercing sounds of bombs and sirens. The acrid smell of smoke and burning buildings made me so scared. Night after night after night there were bombings. I thought this war would never end. But Israel eventually won this war. For the Egyptians, the effect of the Israeli victory was increased hatred for Jews and a desire to kill or deport all Jews living in Egypt. During my childhood, sports were a huge part of my life. I was especially proficient in track. Sports were an outlet for me to be an individual and have fun. People used to call me the heel of the gazelle. This was an Arabic expression and people described me as this because they would say that I ran as fast as a gazelle. I even got an award for Best All-Around Athlete. On June 23, 1956, King Farouk was overthrown and Gamal Nasser was officially announced president of Egypt. The biggest change that took place when Nasser was in power was increased anti-Semitism. Things were getting worse, much worse. I could see the writing on the wall. Although there was always a little anti-Semitism, there was a visible increase in hatred for Jews. For example, our telephone was censored and government representatives opened our letters to ensure that we weren't Israeli spies. I felt so discriminated against. Jews had no more freedom in Egypt and I was living in fear of being injured or killed. Every part of my life was changing. About a year after Nasser was in power, my Arabic teacher told us to write about how bad Israel is. I had always relied on my school as a place to escape anti-Semitism, but my school was no longer the little oasis that it used to be. Since I was very good in track, I trained to be in the Olympics for running, but I did not get to be in them because I was Jewish. This kind of treatment was expected for Jews under the reign of Nasser. One day, my older brother was beaten unconscious on his way home. The men beat him, calling him Dirty Jew and Jew Rat. Although this was the first physical assault in my family for Judaism, everything went downhill from there. My uncle Zaki was also injured for his Judaism and eventually died because of that. At his job, he was about to be promoted to being head of a telegram company because he was next in line. But the fact that he was Jewish did not resonate with the other people in this company. One day, when my uncle was fixing something and the electricity was intentionally off, a member of the company deliberately turned the electricity on to electrocute my uncle. This abhorrent act killed my uncle. They did this heinous deed so that a Jewish man wouldn't become head of this company. My cousin Moshe was a physician who was pro-Israel regarding the development of Israel. He was caught doing something Zionist and the Egyptian government tortured him and then hanged him. This despicable action pushed me over the edge. I knew that I needed to leave Egypt. It was not safe for me and my family anymore. I kept writing to my father, telling him of these horrifying actions, but he was not doing anything to help me. In 1959, during my time in medical school, I got engaged to Dr. Baruch Kotzi, but he left Egypt right afterwards to go to the United States to retrain to be a doctor. I knew my future was in the United States with my fiancé, so in September 1959, I left Egypt for good. I went to Libya to visit my father to see him before I got married. I then went to Paris where I got married to Baruch. But just after our wedding, my husband had to go back to America to work without me, and I was forced to live in Paris until I could get a visa to come to America. In Paris, I lived with my aunt and her family in a tiny apartment. It was extremely difficult to get to America. Even Senator Robert Kennedy tried helping me get over, but to no avail. I couldn't be with my husband and I felt like an intruder in my aunt's house. In December 1960, 1 year after I was married, I finally got to America through the organization HIAS. Once I got to America, it was impossible for me to finish medical school. Instead, I had 3 children, Sylvia, Bobby, and Karen, who all got the opportunities that I was never offered in Egypt because of anti-Semitism. Even though I never got to finish medical school, all 3 of my children became physicians. Also, 2 of my children became nationally ranked tennis players and got to compete without the fear of anti-Semitism.